Coming to this slide, this is a generic slide on how we as a company think the shipping markets operate and the shipping cycles function. So there's economic growth which happens, such as what happened in India and China recently, which stimulates vessel demand and therefore freight rates rise, which lead to speculative new orders. And such as what we are seeing now. So currently we are somewhere here in the freight cycle, and we see that the order book slowly starts outstripping demand, which we forecast in next 2-3 years. Deliveries rise and then rates begin to weaken. Then thereafter what we see is ordering subsides, scrapping increases, and then supply moderates again. Therefore fundamentals balance and freight markets again become firm. This is a slide on Panamax order book versus freight rates. So this is to show that whenever rates have been high, we've seen owners ordering more, and therefore the order book is high, and vice versa. Whenever rates are low, seen a low order book. Why the rates were very high in 2006 and 7, I will explain that later. But just to show that one of the reasons which we see was a very tight shipbuilding market in 2005 and 6, due to which there was very limited possibility of injecting more supply into the system, and therefore with the very high demand, the freight rates continued to rise. This freight market versus demolition activity, we see whenever the rates are low, the demolition activity is quite low, and vice versa. The dry bulk shipping markets at a glance, what you can see is the demand for dry bulk trade for shipping has risen by almost 5 to 6% per annum from 2003, and the ton mile demand, which is demand for shipping in terms of ton miles, has increased by a faster rate as due to longer haul trades. The order book also has risen quite rapidly. And if you see the order book now at the end of 2007 at 56.4 million deadweight is at an historical high, which would result in very high number of deliveries starting from 2009 and 2010, 2011. If you see the amount of deliveries here in 2009 and 10 at 53.9 million deadweight and 70.9 million deadweight, they are at much historical high than what we have seen earlier. This just a snapshot of the Capesize market, which also shows a similar trend as the overall market, and we see a very high number of deliveries coming in 2009 and 2010. The Panamax market also we see a very high number of deliveries which we expect to come out in 2009 and 10, though lower than the Capesize in terms of percentage of the fleet, at 13.5 million deadweight, which is again at historical high. This is the Handymax vessel category. Again, the number of deliveries which we expect in 2009 and 10 and 11, this is net of demolition, is at an all-time high. Similarly for the handy-size vessel. These are the dry bulk carrier new building prices. We've seen prices have risen very sharply since the last 3-4 years. This is commensurate with the very high freight rates that the owners have been able to earn. This is the dry bulk new building ordering activity, where you see again the ordering activity, especially in the Panamax sector and the Handymax sector and the Capesize sector in 2007 has been at an all-time high. So if each year around 40-50 vessels were being ordered, in 2007 there were 403 vessels ordered in Capesize, in Panamax 301 vessels, and in Handymax 689, which again is a kind of pointer to where the freight markets will go to with this excess supply coming in. Currently, the dry bulk carrier second-hand values are at almost 40 to 50% premium for 5 to 10-year-old vessels to new building prices, because prompt delivery vessels are able to earn higher freight rates in the next couple of years. So the discount of new building prices to second-hand prices also is an indicator that the players expecting freight markets to drop. This is the dry bulk second-hand sale and purchase activity in terms of deadweight and in terms of number of vessels which change hands in each of the years. It's pretty much, similar to 2006, but much more than the lower periods in 2002 and 3. So you see, whenever the freight markets are high, there is a number of new entrants which come into shipping, including we see number of commodity traders come into shipping and buying second-hand tonnage. This is on scrap prices, which have again increased because of lesser number of supply of vessels for scrap, as owners have held back scrapping because of very high freight rates. This is the historical freight markets which we have seen from 96 up till 2007. You've seen that the rates in 2007 are at an historical high last 20-25 years. One of the couple of reasons why they have been at historical high is that the trade growth between 2001 to 2006 has been at a CAGR of 5.3%, which is at much higher than what we saw in the 90s and what we saw in the 1980s. Coupled to that fact, the ton-mile demand has even grown at a much higher pace than the trade growth because of longer haul routes both in the Panamax sector as well as Capesize sector. This is an example of a change in trade route in the Capesize sector. For example, now more of iron ore is coming from Brazil to China rather than from Australia to China, which increases the ton-mile demand. Another major factor in 2007, which caused a sharp jump in freight rates or the congestion at major Australian and Brazilian ports, which meant ships were lying idle and supply was constricted off. This is summary of how the historical growth has been in the dry bulk sector. The dry bulk seaborne trade has increased at an annual average rate of 5.3% over 2003 to 7. Ton-mile demand has increased by a CAGR of 6.5%, which is higher than the trade growth due to longer haul routes. Total fleet supply has grown at a CAGR of 5.4%, so it's a quite evenly balanced fleet supply versus demand. However, port congestion and has caused a surge in freight rates. This is a summary of our dry bulk freight market outlook. We expect trade to remain firm and grow at a robust 4.42% up to 2012. However, the net tonnage supply we expect to grow at a much higher rate than historical rates at 7.7%, which means that we would see much more excess supply than